A squadron from SEAL Team 6 deployed to Afghanistan to hunt down high-value Taliban targets. They were hunting a group of bomb makers, which was typically a pretty straightforward mission, but word had spread that Navy SEALs were active in the area, and the bomb makers knew the SEALs preferred to hunt at night, which made them terrified of the dark. And so the bomb makers came up with a surprisingly intelligent plan. They started exclusively working in the light of day. They would build their little bombs in a few houses in Afghanistan and then quickly drive across the border into Pakistan before nightfall, allowing them to sleep safely outside of their enemy's reach, but only if they could survive the drive to Pakistan. The SEALs were from Naval Special Warfare Development Group, Red Squadron, and they were arriving in Afghanistan fresh off the heels of saving Captain Phillips just 2 months prior. Needless to say, after making history and being all over the headlines for the last month, the team was feeling untouchable. They were the best of the best, and they knew it. But more importantly, the enemy knew it. They were stationed at Forward Operating Base Sharana in Paktika Province, Afghanistan. Unfortunately, they had multiple Black Hawk helicopters equipped with Gatling-style 6-barrel miniguns at their disposal. So they decided the best way to nail these bomb makers was to blast them from the sky during their drive to the Pakistan border. Drone operators kept a close eye on the bomb makers' compounds, and sure enough, later that evening, right on schedule, the enemy made a beeline straight to the border. So the operators quickly hopped in their Blackhawks and raced to stop them. They caught up with the bomb makers about halfway to the border and used their minigun to send 4,000 rounds per minute right in front of the vehicles, bringing them to a dead stop. The SEALs could have easily ripped their cars in half with a minigun, and they certainly would have if they hadn't stopped, but they wanted to give these guys a chance to surrender because taking them alive is almost always more valuable than just killing them. But unfortunately, they didn't surrender. Instead, they ditched their vehicles and took off on foot. One of them ran straight into some nearby tall grass to hide alone, and the SEALs decided that that was their guy for the night. So they landed the chopper and walked into the grass. This was a dangerous move because the enemy could stand up and start shooting at any moment, and they didn't know exactly where he was in the field, but they were counting on having a faster reaction time than the enemy. As they slowly and quietly crept through the tall grass, a massive explosion suddenly went off farther into the field, and they could see the bomb maker's arms go flying through the air in 2 totally different directions. It turns out he was wearing a suicide vest and must have thought the SEALs were much closer than they actually were. He blew himself up a bit too early, giving the SEALs nothing more than a good laugh before hopping back on the helicopter. The next night, a much larger group of bomb makers took off yet again towards the border, so the SEALs quickly hopped in the Blackhawks and raced off to catch up to them. But this time, when the enemy spotted the Blackhawks flying overhead, they split up into 2 separate groups. So